Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, the Cubs drop game 2 of the wild card series to the Padres. A lot happened in that game. It feels like, and I think it will be one at least for some where there's a lot of second guessing of Craig Counsell. Shota Imanaga did not start. Andrew Kittredge, it comes out as an opener. He gives up one run. And then you see Shota Imanaga come in, pitch pretty well. And then probably the biggest question mark, the setup is he walks Fernando Tatis with one out. And Mike Shildt decides to bunt him over with Luis Arias, and instead of walking Manny Machado or bringing in a right-handed reliever to face Manny Machado, he has Shota Imanaga pitch to him, and Machado unloads and sends a 2-run shot into the left field bleachers. 1-0 game becomes a 3-0 game, and with that, Padres bullpen and the way Dylan Cease pitched, the game was over. I think that is the moment that we can focus on. For me, I think the Kittredge opener, it doesn't bother me that much. I thought he pitched fine. I thought they had really good at bats against him. I went back and watched those pitches. They were good pitches. They just got some hits. The double steal is worse than the hits, in my opinion. And then I still don't fully get the pitching to Machado.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That home run, like, it felt like a grand slam. Like it was only 3 runs, air quotes. It felt like way more than that. Just the way Wrigley has played, how good the Padres bullpen is, how that just kind of flipped things for them. I didn't love the Kittredge decision, to be honest. But as long as it works, that's fine, right? Like we were talking after game 1 about Counsell. We wrote it, pressed all the right bullpen buttons. I mean, getting, half a perfect game from your bullpen. Obviously, they know what they're doing. I guess at least, taking it from a Cubs perspective, they have been doing stuff like this all year. It's not like, oh, they get to the playoffs and they did something totally different. I think they've sort of laid the groundwork for a decision like that. And I do think that kind of, by bumping Shota back an inning, I think you start kind of maybe overcompensate in that sense. Would you rather face Machado in the first inning with nobody on, or in that scenario? I don't know. I also don't get the Padres' obsession with bunting. That's not just in reading our buddy Dennis Lynn's story. I was like, wait, that's just what they do, more than any other team by a wide margin. And so this has been a great reminder of just how quickly things shift within the playoffs. I mean, game 1, Craig Counsell, genius. This is why you fire David Ross and sign him to a $40 million contract. And then less than 24 hours later, it's they're kind of getting a little too cute with this. Andrew Kittredge, kind of a reliever you picked up at the trade deadline because you didn't like the cost of all those closers, the type of pitchers that the Padres went out and got. And then, do you disrupt Shota just a little bit? I don't know. He looked pretty good overall. But I think ultimately, and we'll get into this eventually in the second segment, it's you can't win if you don't score any runs, right?
Yeah, I mean that we can't bury that, and I made sure to put that up near the top of my story. I just didn't want it to be the story is Craig Counsell making a decision that I and others disagree with. It's the offense not scoring, but I just really struggle with this decision because it felt like their obsession with bunting handed you an out, and
No
now
doubt.
an easy decision. And when you go through the thought process of going with Kittredge, it's to keep Imanaga away from Tatis and Machado. Like, it's as simple as that. He's trying to limit the amount of at bats. He just gave you a reason to limit the amount of times Imanaga faces Machado. He gave you an easy out. And look, Jackson Merrill is no pushover, but against lefties, he is not the same type of hitter. He's just not. It's a huge split. And I think I thought it was easy. Just put up four fingers and send him to first base. Soroka was warming. I would have been fine if he brought in Soroka. I think the problem with bringing in Soroka to face Machado is if, say, you walk him or he gets like an infield single and the run doesn't score, now you have to face Jackson Merrill. And so I think intentionally walking was the right move. Counsell said he thought about it. This is what I find fascinating. Counsell said what changed, I guess it didn't change his mind, but why he stuck with Imanaga is because he liked the way he looked. He liked the way he looked. And this is what does Counsell get? Not just Counsell, but today's game of manager.
Aaron Boone, yeah.
Yeah, all these guys, they have everything planned out. They never stray from they don't watch the game. They don't go with their gut. They don't go with what they're seeing. He went with what he was seeing, and it was the wrong move. It was the wrong move. He should have gone with the numbers. I think it's as simple as that. I very, you know me, I very rarely think it's important to harp on a managerial decision, mostly because these are just coin flip decisions, and these are just things that A, they have so much more information than us. B, I think fans think many of us think, not just fans, I shouldn't just limit it to fans. Many people think it's just like, well, the decision that I wanted to make was the right one, when it's like 50.1% to 49.9%. These are very toss-up decisions. And just because it went one way doesn't mean absolutely the other way was the right way to go. Baseball's crazy like that, and it's real. These decisions are really hard. This one felt like a little bit more he should have gone. You don't let the stars break out in the postseason. It feels like don't let them shine. Not that Jackson Merrill is a pushover again. It just felt like that he had the decision handed to him.
I mean, Jackson Merrill obviously had a great season last year, but he is, in reading Dennis Lynn's coverage and watching that bunt in game one, like, he has not been feeling it. And I still think, Manny Machado is just one of those names you circle in the lineup of Machado and Tatis cannot beat us. I think that's what you go into any of these series thinking. And it did just feel inconsistent of like, okay, if you're going to go to this sort of extreme, even though they've done it all year, it's very, like we discussed, out of character kind of for the Cubs DNA about how this, kind of franchise was rebuilt into a championship team, obviously a decade ago. Why you would go to that length, but then when Machado rolls around, not give him that open base. I'm with you. Like, if the Cubs lose game 3, I feel like that will be blown out of proportion, because if the Cubs lose this series, it's probably going to be because their offense just didn't show up. But it's like, immediately from showing up to the ballpark today, we knew like this is going to be an angle, a story, one way or the other, by going with the opener and kind of setting off that sequence. But yeah, the Padres won because their stars, their best players, showed up in a huge way.
All right, Patrick, before we take a break, I wanted to just direct people to northsideterritoryshop.com. Get your hoodies, get your notebooks, your mugs, your hats, all your Northside Territory gear for you Northside sickos. We know we appreciate your fandom. We appreciate your support. Yeah, so NorthsideTerritoryShop.com. Head over there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can scan that code right there and get some gear. Represent Northside Territory out in Wrigleyville. We'd love to see you out. And don't be afraid to say hi either. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back and break down more of this game 2 and then see what's coming in game 3.
October baseball is here. The pressure's on, the lights are brighter, and with DraftKings Sportsbook, you're right there in the middle of every moonshot moment. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the intensity of October with player props, live in-game betting, and odds that can change as fast as a ball flying over the fence. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Patrick, the stars for the Padres showed up on Wednesday. Manny Machado, obviously, we talked about him. Fernando Tatis led the game off with a single, had a big walk that set up the Machado home run. Dylan Cease was really good. It didn't pitch very long, but he did what he needed to do because he turned it over to a star-laden bullpen. That was awesome. Mason Miller threw a pitch 104.5 miles per hour, and it was ridiculous. And he is, I think I turned to our buddy John Greenberg and said, how has he allowed any runs this season? How has he given up a run? I don't understand. Really impressive bullpen, really impressive group of stars that showed up. You know, they didn't pound the Cubs. It wasn't like some blowout, but the Cubs stars haven't shown up. Kyle Tucker had a nice line drive and then a single. I mean, that's the highlight of the core group there. Say Suzuki's hitting, but is anybody else? Nobody else is. Nico Horner, Say Suzuki, they've shown up, but Ian Happ over, and then of course PCA. Look, these are bad matchups for him, but he does not. These are not good at bats. These are bad at bats. He doesn't look good. I'm curious. I didn't get to at this point. I haven't read your story yet, and I wasn't. I went to the post game, press conferences instead of the clubhouse. So I heard what Craig Counsell had to say. I didn't hear what Pete Armstrong had to say. Why don't you let us know?
You could tell Pete was a little edgy after the game. He's still always great to listen to. It's very professional and introspective, and he wasn't as kind of expansive as he normally is. But he sets a pretty high standard in that regard. And you could just tell, like, he kind of looked around. He's like, you guys want to talk to me? As he was leaving the locker room area, he kind of threw something in the garbage can, kind of with a little more force. It felt like. I'm reading into some of this stuff, but that's why we have Clubhouse access. And, you saw it all out there on the field when he's slamming his helmet, when he grounds out. I think, there was a point this year where the idea of intentionally walking Carson Kelly to get to Pete Crow Armstrong would have seemed kind of far-fetched. It was a pretty quick at bat. He got caught in between on that first pitch. You're right. Tough matchup. Like, no one's going to look good, as Pete pointed out. Like, if he's throwing 104 with a nasty slider, and you're talking about like the velocity separation of like 14, 15, 16, 17 miles an hour, kind of like no chance. I referred to Suarez as like the Padres like change of pace closer because he throws like 101. I mean, like, Good luck with that. You got a good quote for me from Counsell of just like they're doing a really good job of exploiting Pete's holes, which probably speaks to the game planning, the scouting that they're doing on Pete, and the high level of execution that really almost every Padres pitcher has done to almost every Cubs hitter. And obviously the Cubs have done the same too. I mean, it's obviously a 1-1 low scoring series thus far, but this postseason was framed as this could be PCA's sort of coming out party in October, and that still could happen. I think if you're circling one player on the Cubs in an elimination game who might do something that blows your mind, it's probably Pete. But these first two games have not looked great. Obviously, his defense, I don't want to like shortchange that. Like, he does stuff out there. And that was his point as well of like, I'm focused on being a great center fielder, doing my job. Like, I'm not going to ride the ebbs and flows. That's why I go to the batting cage every day and follow my routine and put all that work in. But until he snaps out of it, it's hard to imagine the Cubs keep playing and playing series after series, postseason round after postseason round.
Yeah, I think these matchups have just been rough in general. These are guys that the starters are guys that throw really hard up in the zone and then have nasty breaking balls. Dylan Cease has had a rough season on the road this year, but they kept it short. They kept it short because they knew they could just Schilt is thinking elimination game. I'm going to my best arms as soon as I can. And they have this type of bullpen that's just nasty. Yu Darvish is not the Yu Darvish of 2020. This is not the guy Cubs fans fell in love with. Great guy, great. Like I enjoy listening to him and think he has a lot to share to the game and bring. Like he's I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it feels like as far as people that I've covered, he feels like he's high up there,
He's pretty close. If he's not first ballot, he's kind of hanging around there for a while.
Yeah, I think he should get credit for his career in Japan and all that stuff, and maybe he gets in. I think they can get to him. I think lefties. I mean, I know he gives up more home runs to lefties this year, or just more production against lefties. Lefties can hit him. The stuff is not as nasty. He's about from when he was with the Cubs to now, he's about 2 miles per hour down on his fastball. He's coming back from an elbow injury. I don't know if he's you could probably say he wasn't fully there when he first came back. He's probably fully healthy now. My guess is he's fully healthy, but I think he's just, he's older now. He's not he's just not the same guy. They have to get to him early. I don't know what Mike Schilt is going to do with his bullpen. He didn't rule out going back to those guys like Morejon and Mason Miller. It'd be kind of crazy to go to Morejon, in my opinion, because he's just thrown like 3 in a third inning, 4 in a third, whatever. It's a lot. He's thrown a lot. They all have like 30 plus pitches over the past 2 days. Suarez is probably the only one that hasn't pitched a lot. Estrada. But look, it's an elimination game. If he has to, he may throw them out there. Maybe it's the right move. I just think these guys can hit Yu Darvish, but they just need to. They have to. I think that is the key. First 3-ish innings, you want to see them put some runs on the board.
I'm sure the Padres feel the same way about Jamison Tyone of just like, and leaving Wrigley tonight, I was kind of talking to someone, and it feels like we haven't had one of those crazy Wrigley games yet. Like, it's hard to imagine that it'll be like kind of 27 innings of it this sort of like tight and contained and low scoring. Maybe it is. Maybe the shadows are such that it happens, or just the matchups kind of lend itself to that low scoring environment. It just seems like someone is going to break out, or some pitcher is going to break down, like you're saying. And to me, that's where, I wrote PCA tonight because he is so magnetic. He is the star. He's driven this team to another level, but he's only 23 years old. This is his second year. Like, this is not a one-man show. And yeah, I'm curious to see what Kyle Tucker does. Is this his last game in a Cubs uniform? He's been sort of a non-factor. I know he got that single late, but it didn't really lead to anything. And then it's going to be like, who runs into the home runs? I think that's kind of how most of these postseason games work. And, it could look a lot different, because I'm with you. Like, Darvish is a magician, just one of the most interesting kind of guys that we've covered, I feel like, in our time in Chicago. But that was also a long time ago when we covered him, and he already had a very long professional career before everyone showed up in Chicago. And so, yeah, got to get to him early. And, you got to think Schilt's just going to kind of unload everything they have in that bullpen and worry about tomorrow if there is one.
Yeah, the Cubs bullpen is mostly the big guys are available.
Yeah, they're pretty good shape.
No Keller, Pomerantz, or Palencia today. Kittredge has a rubber arm. Like he'd be going on 3 days rest. 3 days in a row. I don't think it matters for him. It's the playoffs. This guy doesn't care. He's going to go out there if needed. So, I think their bullpen's in pretty good shape. They just need to score. They need to get to Darvish. And I think they can. The wind, I don't think, is going to be the type of day where it's knocking the ball down. It could be kind of a crosswind. I'm just looking at what the weather is predicting, like it predicted to be. It could be kind of a crosswind, but it also looks like it's kind of going out. So we'll see what it is when we get there, and what we don't even know what time the game's going to be as we're recording. So who knows? It's win or go home. That's what it is. And these moments are fun, but I think fans are going to be stressed. Hopefully they bring the energy too, because they certainly have both games. Cubs fans have been into it. Wrigley was electric in game one. There was no shortage of energy. The Cubs just didn't provide enough reasons to get excited. So we'll see who can do some damage. I think they should be able to get to Yu Darvish, but baseball's weird, and Yu Darvish is, like you said, he's a magician. So I'm not going to rule anything out of him, like kind of, reaching into his bag of tricks and pulling off a nice game. All right, Patrick, we will be back at it, either wrapping up the season and previewing the offseason, or talking about what's going to happen against the Brewers. One of the two. We'll be talking soon, and coming back at you with another episode. Thanks so much for listening. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care.